And then my mother passed away a few years after that of drugs and alcohol. I was 6
Gotcha. Wow.
at the time.
Mm,
She mixed pills and alcohol.
right.
And then my father moved us all around from here, Massachusetts, to Connecticut, to Texas, to Arizona, back to Texas. I have a book out there called 10 Homes in 11 Years, and it's all
Wow.
about that time.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. Or if you head over to our YouTube channel and tap that bell down below, ding, 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 you will be connected to all great things audacious related. Now, we talk a lot about adversity and challenges on this podcast, and with good reason. It's truly part of the human experience and something that we'll all experience at one point or another, whether we want to or not. Tough times are painful and they're difficult, but the most important things we can do for ourselves is to find our way through them, because on the other side of those painful experiences is where our greatness lies. Today's guest is Charles Smith. He's a former U.S. vet, and he knows this very, very well. He's lived a full life and experienced much pain and grief starting at a very, very young age. He went from losing his parents as a little boy to dealing with being homeless, to substance abuse issues, to surviving a suicide attempt. He managed his way to make his way through all of these painful moments and proudly stands on the other side of his adversity as a father himself. Get ready, folks, for this super powerful chat as Charles Smith is up next on the Audacious Living Podcast. Hey, Charles, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here with me. So thank you for this.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's really great to be here.
Thank you. We spend so much time on this podcast. We're encouraging individuals to live their best audacious lives ever, and sometimes that involves a little bit of boldness, right, and stepping out. And sometimes for some individuals, there's things or obstacles or boulders in our path that impede or make that more difficult. But we'll have a chance to hear a little bit about your story, but certainly the ability to overcome adversity and get past troubling times, there's some true value in that, and certainly your childhood upbringing and all that you went through in your life sort of speaks to that a little bit. So I wonder if we can just sort of start off just kind of giving a nutshell in terms of sort of what got you to this point where you're at now.
Yeah, sure. My life started out amazing. My father owned multiple nursing homes. I should have had the greatest legacy. And then one day he lost it all. And then we don't know why. I've actually become a PI over the years, and I've done research, and I still don't know why. It just shows that it's changed hands.
Right.
And I've actually, I'm just turning down my phone. I didn't realize it was on.
Nice. Nice.
And Yeah, we just lost everything in one day, and my grandfather built us a duplex, which if I could see through this wall in front of me, I could see that duplex.
Hmm.
And then my mother passed away a few years after that of drugs and alcohol. I was 6
Gotcha. Wow.
at the time.
Mhm.
She mixed pills and alcohol.
Right.
And then my father moved us all around from here, Massachusetts to Connecticut to Texas to Arizona, back to Texas. I have a book out there called 10 Homes in 11 Years, and it's all
Wow.
about that time in my
And
life.
why the move so much? What was happening there?
I think he was looking for work.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. And um,
Trying to figure it out.
he had health issues too. He
Okay.
was 30 years older than my mother. So he was 60 at the time,
Gotcha.
which going back 40 years ago isn't 60 now,
Right.
you know. So yeah, then yeah, when we lived on a Navajo reservation in Arizona.
Hmm.
He was a chef out there, and then he was a chef at a college out there. And then we moved to Van Horn, Texas, where he passed away. We lived in a shack, pretty much. It was a really run down house. Um, I remember we me and him shared a bed, and our clothes were in cardboard boxes. We our bathroom floor was concrete.
Right.
Our our couch was a booth from a restaurant, just to paint a picture.
Right. Yeah. No.
You
No.
know, our TV stand was a TV, like the TV trays. Yeah, and I remember waking up one morning. My father was making coffee,
Right.
and I woke up and I could see him up outside the door making coffee, and I had this really eerie feeling going on. And I went up to him, I hugged him, I said, Dad, I want to stay home from school.
Hmm.
And he he just said, no, you missed too much school already because of the moving. So I went in my bathroom, showed my finger down my throat to show that I was sick.
Mm.
And then I went back to him. I said, look, I'm not feeling good. I want to stay home. And then he let me stay home. We went to the store after dropping my sister off, who was a couple of years older than me. We dropped her off at school, and he passed out on me in the store. The store clerk knew him and knew that he was a diabetic and gave him um, orange juice, which helps to level the sugar level out for a diabetic.
Hmm.
And it got us home, and then he passed out on me again at home.
Wow.
And I ran over to my neighbor's house. I knew that my neighbor's wife was home. She didn't work.
Right.
And we rushed him to the hospital. And I was there holding his hand, and that's when he passed.
Wow. And,
Yeah,
you're how old at this point now?
11.
11. Wow.
Yeah, yep. You're older than my son now.
Wow. To be able
Yeah.
to, yeah, to have to manage something uh of that nature at such a young age is difficult. How are we able to sort of navigate through that so young?
That's a good question. I From there I remember just like from the hospital to that's a blank. From the hospital to like where I met up with my sister is like a blank. I don't know
Mhm.
what happened from there,
Mhm.
but I know we went to my sister's best friend's house, stayed there until my my grandfather sent my uncle down from Massachusetts to Texas to come and get us. And then my uncle brought us back here to Massachusetts. And when I came back, I was pretty much a recluse. My sister told me I didn't speak for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I totally forgot about that too. I I when I was writing 10 homes in 11 years, I asked her things to put in the book, and she told me that, and I was like blown away because I totally forgot.
So Charles, when did the healing occur, or did it?
Growing up,
Because there has to be some form of healing, right? Like you go through, we go through traumatic situations and circumstances, and we need our time to recover. But if you're saying to me 6 months of no speaking, when did that opportunity to get better take place for you?
I really don't know if healing did take place.
Okay.
Um, I found a group of friends that became like family because I pushed away the family that I did have, the
Right.
blood family that I did have, um, which was a terrible mistake on my part. But I even with my friends, I had multiple sets of groups of people that I hung out with
Right.
because if I lost one, I had another.
I see.
And that was even subconscious.
Yes. Right.
Like at that point, I had a backup for my backups.
Sure. Well,
You know,
you'd experienced significant loss already, right? So I
yeah,
understand that. I understand that.
yeah, definitely, yeah, yep, yep. And then my main group of friends and I, we began drinking and smoking cigarettes around 13, 14 years old and smoking pot and all that. And, then as I got older, I barely graduated high school and I um, started hanging out with one of my cousins who was the bad boy,
Right.
and he was doing crack cocaine at the time. And so
Wow.
I was doing crack cocaine at the time. And then
Charles, who at this point after you lost your father, who is your caregiver? Was it your grandfather?
my grandfather and my grandmother were my legal guardians,
Okay.
and my mother and my father, or my aunt and my uncle, were I lived with them.
Right.
So yeah, so yeah, yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah,
So you now get into drugs in your teens, right? This is that's what you're experiencing at this point. You're struggling through school.
yeah, yeah.
You know, is there are you seeing a trajectory for your life at this point, or are you not even caring about that?
I'm not even really caring about that at that time. I was just doing what I was doing with my cousin, and then it got time, when I was like, I graduated high school. I tried postgraduate at my tech school and feeling miserably at that too. And then my aunt told me, get out, get a job, and don't come back, which is,
Right.
you know, what I would have said too at that time. And I went out and I joined the military.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so the military, interesting. Military is very structured. It's now very regimented. That wasn't your life prior. How was that? Did it help you or aid you, or how was the impact on you being in the military?
That was my detox. Basic training was my detox in AIT, and that was horrible because of the strain on me mentally and physically. You know, I really I had a couple of good friends in basic and AIT that really pushed me and really helped me through that you know, I don't think I would have made it through if not for them.
What was difficult? Help me understand that. Like, what part was it? Was it again? Was it the structure, or was there? What was
It
going
was this the it was the structure, but it was also like the strain, like the physical activity because I was really skinny at the
on? Right.
time because of the crack cocaine and the alcohol and the you know everything.
Got you. Got you.
You know, and the mental part because I was like, what am I doing here?
Right.
You know, what the hell did I do to myself?
It almost kind of saved you in a sense. Is that fair to say?
At the time, yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. And it saved me as far as the addiction aspect.
Got you.
Yes. Because even though um it began my healing in a lot of ways, let's just say. Yeah. And I did actually start helping people in the military. I became
Okay.
what they call the um boss representative, better opportunities for single soldiers.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
What what other positive things came out of your military experience?
Um, I learned what I was capable of.
Hmm.
And it was a lot more than I thought I was capable of.
And I can see where that surprises yourself, right? Like you when you get pushed to do things that you don't normally aren't pushed to, and you achieve
Mhm.
them, right? You're like, wow, I can do this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So amazing. And you were in the military for how long?
3 years active, 5 years inactive ready reserves. Yeah, yeah.
And so when you sort of walk away from your military experience, what's the most sort of profound thing that you or biggest lesson that you think you took from that?
I think the biggest lesson I took from that was um that I was more capable of you know capable of more than I thought I was. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah,
Got you. Got you.
yeah.
So the military experience ends. Are you now sort of feeling you have a sense of where your life is going at this point? Because before you didn't really think about, you didn't care about it. You're
Yeah.
coming out of the military. What's your outlook on your life at this point?
I didn't really I wish I knew. I
Hmm.
didn't really know.
Right.
Um I was in a I was in a tank accident
Okay.
when I was in the military. And I think that really affected more than I thought it did. Now I know that I have traumatic brain injury and
Okay.
post-traumatic stress disorder, and because of that tank incident, and
Right.
I didn't realize I had it before, and I think that affected like why I got out at the time.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
I got out and I started doing security work
okay.
and this and
Okay.
that, and then my uncle and my grandfather got sick,
Okay.
and they both died
Wow.
in 2001. Um, I'm a month apart from cancer.
Wow. So,
Yeah,
so that's a big blow again. So now you're here, you go again, dealing with more loss, right? And
yeah.
more, but it's not just, it's loss, but I don't want to just minimize any loss, because these are key individuals who are influential in your upbringing.
It was like losing my father all over again, twice.
Mm, mm,
I was losing my father all over again, and then losing my father all over again.
right, right,
So it was like getting hit by Mike Tyson twice.
right,
One, once, and then a month later getting back up and him hitting you again.
right. And it's fair to say that you probably weren't fully up yet after the first loss, right? And
Exactly. No.
you're still recovering, aren't you? Like,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that put me in a really, really dark depression, like the
mm,
darkest I've ever been in.
mm,
And I began like cutting on myself with razors
mm,
just to feel something other than what I was feeling. Just it was weird. I seen a friend of mine doing it, and as mad as I was at her,
you're right.
it gave me the idea to do it myself. You know,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And then I I eventually tried taking my own life because I was so upset.
Sure.
You know, and I tell people now, like, you know, that was 20 years ago, 22 years ago.
Right. Not all that long ago, really.
No, no, no. And my son
No.
is 10.
Right.
You do the math. If I succeeded back then, he would never be here.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and not only would he have not been here, but I wouldn't be here talking to you. I wouldn't.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be a 7, 8, 9 time author.
Right.
I wouldn't be working for one of the greatest recovery companies in the world.
Right.
Aware recovery care. And there's just so many things that wouldn't be happening if I succeeded.
Right. Right.
So,
There's a phrase that we talk on this podcast oftentimes about outlasting adversity, and how
mm,
important it is that we know that over the course of our lives, challenges, setbacks, misfortune, they're all going to happen at some point or another. No one's immune to it, and so it's important for us to sort of outlast adversity, because on the other side of that is sort of where the greatness lies. And so
mm,
it's essential when you talk about your journey, what you had to go through. That's really what it was.
yeah,
So you outlast adversity, and you look at what's on the other side. You've got your son. That was on the other side of
yeah,
adversity, right? And so
yeah,
the,
yeah,
the attempts of trying to take your life and all these sorts of things, you need to get past that.
yeah, yeah. The video's on here. This is going to be video, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Hold on. Joseph, here. I'm going to do something I haven't done in any podcast.
Okay. This is a first. Is that what you're telling me? An
This is
exclusive?
this is the first.
Hey, hey,
So
your
this is
son,
living proof.
man.
This
Good,
is living proof.
good looking young man, cute kid.
Thank you.
Look like your father. I can see his nose. Got your father's nose.
Because you're living proof that if you outlive adversity,
It's
that,
amazing.
you know, because Daddy tried to hurt himself 20 years ago. And if I did that, you wouldn't be here. So,
Yeah.
Now I'm just great.
I love it. I love it. Well, so Charles, thank you for sharing that moment. It's very touching.
You're welcome.
But I do. There's so much truth to that, and so why again we've got to push past those bad moments. I want to congratulate you for doing that because on the other side, again, that's where the true greatness lies. Talk to me about the sort of getting through that. So you weren't successful on taking your own life. What's next for you? Because now you're still managing loss. You're still dealing with the key figures no longer in your life. What's next?
Well, after
Like
after that
would that be the moment things turned around, or was there more to come?
after that attempt, I was homeless, and then that really opened my eyes because I seen other veterans that were hurting just as much as I was,
Right.
you know, and especially in the homeless shelters and on the streets, I seen so many people that were hurting as much as I was that
Right.
I felt the need to make a difference, and then I learned about PTSD. I learned that I had PTSD, and that was significant because once I learned what was going on with me over
Yes.
all this time, because all this time I knew I was different. I knew I had something going on, but I had no
Right.
idea what it was. All this time I felt empty, but now it was filling up.
Right.
And once that void was filled, I knew what I could do. And then I began like um getting the pieces back together and fixing my life. Um and putting my life back together
Yes.
and just that's when I was starting to write programs.
Right.
I started making programs for places like Veterans Inc. around here
Right.
and addiction recovery places, and then those original programs turned into books,
Right.
and then
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah,
There's so much value in being able to take your experiences and turn around and helping others with them. Like I got to tell you, Charles, that's huge because in the moment when you're going through your challenges, you're not thinking about the impact, how you can help others. But now that's exactly what you've done.
hmm.
It's amazing. Congratulate. That's a big one, right? Because sharing our
Thank you.
stories, being able to share our stories and use them to positively impact other people, it's enough can't be said about that. And it's
Yeah,
interesting too. You had to get to the point where you're almost at rock bottom to kind of see your purpose.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Man,
you know
man,
that's what it's all about. Having the power to change your life and the power to change someone else's life.
right,
Like
right.
each podcast that I'm on, if one person listens to those
Yeah.
and takes something from that, then you know my job is complete.
No, I
That's
think it's
how I feel.
no, it truly is a powerful statement, Charles, because uh, um, we all have a message, we all have a story, we all
Yeah,
our lives do hold purpose and have meaning and significance. And so when you get to that point where you realize yours, and oftentimes, Charles, that significance is connected to how we can impact other people's lives and make them better.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And you've clearly done that. You've clearly
yeah,
done that. That's amazing. Um so I guess you never saw yourself being an author, right? That's got to be a wild experience.
yeah. I've never seen almost never seen myself doing that. years ago, I wrote poems.
Okay.
Yeah, which turned into a lot of them turned into songs when I was in bands
Okay.
long ago. Yeah, and I back before you could self-publish,
Mm.
it was going to cost me like 10 grand to publish it.
Right,
I was like,
right, right.
nope.
No, I get you. I get you. I get you.
Yeah, like nope, I don't have the money for that one.
Right, 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 right. No, I hear you. I hear you. There's so much. Again, when I reflect on your story, there's so much of even think about the concept of just accepting what comes, like, because again, the things that life is going to give us, and being able to accept that, right? And I know for some, they want to push back, but you have to. There's a certain level of acceptance that you've had to deal with it, right? Especially when we talk about your loss, you've had to deal with that.
Hmm. Yep, yep. And that's what took the longest time was having to deal with it. I remember the first time I had to talk about it. I became a certified peer specialist, and part of that training was having to talk about your story.
Right.
And I had to talk about it for the first time, and I broke down in tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, you know, I was I was just so upset talking about it. But as I kept talking about it, it got easier and easier and easier, and now I can talk about it on a daily basis. I'll get to that in a minute. I know.
Well, world of a father's life is ever done. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, February vacation, you gotta love it.
No, amazing, amazing. No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Listen, Charlie, I just think your story is incredible for just a bunch of reasons. Again, I talk about the outlasting adversity from the very beginning, how significant that is for us, the difference that we can make in the lives of others by sharing our stories, and then even the process of recovery. I wonder if you could talk about what that looks like generally. Like if you're going through a situation, and obviously to get through that, what does the recovery process look like?
Well, I was just talking about that with the whole team that we work with.
Uh-huh.
Your whole life is your recovery when you're in recovery. Like it's not just, did the person drink today? Did the person think about drinking today? You know, it's did the person have a good day today? Did the person
Mm,
you know, have a good day at work? Did the person get into an argument with their spouse? Everything pertains to recovery
right,
because if they had an argument with their spouse, that could lead towards a relapse, recurrence. You know, if they had a great day with their spouse, then that could lead to a great day in their recovery.
right. Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
not everybody goes to AA or NA. There's no
Right,
cookie cutter approach to the way that people are in recovery. Like me, I'm 30 years in recovery. And the first time that I heard of AA and NA, I was 20 years in recovery, you know? And, so it just, we all have our own method of doing it, and we all have our own method of supporting others.
right.
And, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I think that like coping skills,
Mm-hmm.
we all have to find our own way.
Right.
Like I can teach somebody my coping skills,
Sure. It's gonna be
but
different.
if they don't work for you because they're my coping skills, then they don't work. You got to find your own coping skills. that are going to work for you.
That's a really good point. It really, really is, because we're all different. We all react differently to situations. We all respond differently, and so to use what works for me may not do anything for you, right? And so
Yeah.
it's important to know that. The other part of and sort of coping is, and for some, the idea of not sort of not covering things up, right? Because that happens times where people will cover things up and ignore them, pretend that they're not there. And
Yeah.
Charles, as well as I do, that approach is very short-lived. It's only going to grow, fester, and manifest itself in a far worse way down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And the more we cover it up, the more, the bigger it's going to be when it does manifest down the road.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree. Well, Charles, I'm super impressed with your story, and I'm so glad that we had you here on the podcast, because so much of our messaging we talk about is encouraging people to live bold, audacious lives, but you can't do that if things are holding you back. Right? You
Exactly.
can't be the person you're supposed to be if you got old stuff that you haven't recovered from, you haven't and maybe you don't know it's there, because that probably sounds like a little bit like you weren't fully aware of the things holding you back, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. I,
So,
I, I wasn't aware of, I just felt like it always makes me laugh. Me and Joe Pence, we had a podcast out there called God's Guinea Pig,
okay.
because that's how I felt.
Mm,
I felt like I was God's guinea pig growing up. You
wow.
know, let's see if he can handle this. Okay,
Right.
he did that. Let's see if I can throw this in there, and
Right.
let's see if he can handle that.
Right. Right.
And it's just God gives you, and when I say God, I mean any God, because if you look at
Yep.
my dog tags, it says all,
Mm,
because I believe in, if you think that that shirt is your God and that gets you through the day,
right.
I'm not going to be the one to argue the point with you. You know, but I think God gives you what you can handle.
Mm,
You know, but sometimes we don't realize that, and sometimes we don't realize that some of the most difficult times in our lives, like my homelessness, was my crucible.
right.
And so, sometimes we don't think that our worst times in our lives are going to be life changing,
Mm,
and turn out to be the best times in our lives, or the most worthwhile times in our lives.
mm. Such an important message. Such an important message.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made that point, Charles, because it does. It's again, we go through things, right, and we just got to get through them. And once we
Mm.
can do that, and understand that, because the other thing about this, there's things that happen to us for a specific purpose, right? And there's things that make us get to a point where we're like, for example, you got to the point where you're at rock bottom homelessness, and that's when you turn around and said, yes, now I know I can make my difference. And so congratulations on doing that, Charles. Congratulations on
Thank you.
on all the work that you've done, and getting to where you are, and being, and for me, the biggest part about it is that you've been able to use your story to impact people in the way that you have. And that's really a part about living this best audacious life that we talk about here. And you're going to be bold enough to do that. And you've done that.
Yeah,
For our
most
listeners that
definitely.
want to hear more about you or your work or your books, where can we send them?
Lifelongexperience.net.
Gotcha.
Yep. And that's like one stop shopping. It's got my social media, it's got the books, it's got everything.
Awesome.
And if I can just put a shout out to Aware Recovery Care. They're in multiple states. AwareRecoveryCare.com is where you can find the information on them. And what we do is we're an IHAP program,
Mm-hmm.
in-home addiction treatment. and we meet the client where we're at. Like every other week, I play pool with a client.
Okay.
You know, every other week I go for coffee with a client, or I sit with a client at their house and
Nice.
talk about their recovery with them.
Right.
You know, we have the best stats for recovery that I've ever seen. And I just can't say enough good things about them. But I think if you are lucky enough to be in one of the states that we're in,
Yep.
and you are struggling with addiction recovery, hit us up.
Amazing. Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you.
Charles, thank you again. And congratulations, my friend. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Stay in touch.
For sure. Back we are on the podcast, and I got to send my thanks and appreciation to Charles for being here and sharing your very, very powerful story. And it's so amazing to hear what you're doing now, Charles. I so love the way you've taken your pain and turned that into a superpower, and you're now using that to help others. I applaud you, my friend, and wish you and your son nothing but the best. You know, when I think back to my conversation with Charles, I so appreciated so much of what he had to say. You know, but if there's just one thing that I would take from our chat, it would have to be this. It was Albert Einstein who once said, "Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving." Life is full of ups and downs, and one day you might feel like you have it all figured out. Then in a moment's notice, you've been thrown a curveball. You're not alone in these feelings. Everyone has to face your own set of challenges, and learning how to overcome these challenges will help you stay centered and remain calm under pressure. The ups and downs in life are going to come, and the only way to make the journey worthwhile is if you enjoy the good and learn from the bad. Whether you're trying to be a better leader or a better person, the ability to assess and evaluate where we're at versus where you want to be is key to our overall self-improvement. It's something that you do not only for the benefit of yourself, but for the sake of those who look to you and you want to make a positive, audacious impact on. We've sadly come to the end of another edition of the most audacious podcast on the planet, and I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate the lovers of audaciousness, all those who take the time to click, to send their likes, to send the comments. I see them and I say thank you, thank you, thank you, and please keep it going. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.